Okay, in this video we're going to talk about inverse functions and what they are. So let's say you have a line like negative 5x plus 3, okay? And you are told to find the inverse of it. The inverse of this, by the way, would be designated as f to the negative 1 of x. That means find the inverse. So what I would do is write this in terms of y instead of f of x. So negative 5x plus 3. Then you change the place of your x and y. So x equals negative 5y plus 3. Now solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. X minus 3 equals negative 5y. Then divide both sides by negative 5. So x minus 3 divided by negative 5 equals y. Now you could also change that to negative 1/5 x plus 3/5 equals y. So that's the same thing. Either of those would be okay. And you would say then that this is equal to f inverse of x. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, think of it as undoing one equation undoes the other. One of them, like think of the function as an input-output box. If you input a number like 4 and it outputs a number like 7, then the inverse, if this is f of x, the inverse tells you what number 7 came from. You put in 7, it gives you 4. So a good way to understand this is like Celsius and Fahrenheit temperatures. So if you input 100 degrees Celsius and you put that in the box, okay, the input box, it's going to output 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, the inverse function would be if you put in 212 degrees Fahrenheit, it would output 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, so whatever we do to 100 to get 212 is the function, and whatever we do to 212 to get 100 is the inverse function. And you could call this the function and this the inverse function. It doesn't matter. They undo each other. Okay? So that's how you find the inverse function. You flip the x and y and then solve for the y. Okay? Notice on this function, you know, f of 100 is equal to 212. So that would correspond to the ordered pair 100, 212. And this one, f inverse of 212 equals 100. So that would correspond to the ordered pair 212, 100. So if you were to graph f and f inverse, now these two are going to be lines. I'll do a different function because lines aren't quite as interesting. So let's say you have a function that looks like this. Okay, so that's f of x. Okay, f inverse, because the x and y flip places, it is a reflection over that axis. So like, let's say this is the point negative 4, 3. It's going to have 3, negative 4 on the graph. 3, negative 4 on the graph. So it would look something like this. It's a reflection over that line. Something else would be, well, let's look at the cube root of x. Okay, if you flip that over the line y equal x, then you get y equals x cubed. So the x cubed function is a reflection over that line. Okay, so you'll have to understand that for the test in our class. Another thing you'll have to be able to do is show that one function is an inverse of another by it's kind of a proof. So f of f inverse of x will always be x, and f inverse of f of x will also always be x. They completely undo each other. So let's say you just had something as simple as 2x cubed minus 5. Okay, so let's say f of x is equal to that. So let's find the inverse. So that'd be x equals 2y cubed minus 5. So x plus 5 divided by 2 would be y cubed. So the cube root of x plus 5 divided by 2 would be y. So that would be f inverse of x. Okay? So we have this function and we have this function. So f of f inverse means take f inverse and put it into the f function. So 2 times something cubed minus 5. Well, the something is this. So the cube root of x plus 5 divided by 2. Okay, so you have to show in order what cancels out. So the first thing that cancels out is the cube root and the third power. So this becomes x plus 5 over 2. Well, you multiply before you subtract, so the next thing that cancels out is the 2. So you're left with x plus 5 minus 5, which is x. Okay, so you've done half of it now. You've shown that this is f of f inverse. Now we've got to do f inverse of f. So I got to take the f function and put it in there. So I start with the cube root of something plus 5 divided by 2. Well, the something is this function. So 2x cubed minus 5. So you have to do order of operations correctly to show what cancels out. Well, I can't cancel this division out until I get rid of my 5. So negative 5 plus 5 is 0. So that becomes the cube root of 2x cubed over 2. Then my 2's are the next thing to cancel out. So I'm in with the cube root of x cubed, and that equals x. So all of this work is you showing that this truly is the inverse of that.